Hey, it's Katie, and welcome back to my BookTube channel. Today, I will be hauling a bunch of books for you guys that I have bought so far in 2021, and this will be split into 3 sections for each of the trips to the bookstore that I took. And some of these in the first section are books that I've already read and I've already talked about in my January and February wrap-ups, so I will make sure to tell you guys which ones I've already read and link the wrap-up videos in the description below if you'd like to hear my thoughts on them. But this first section are all of the books that I bought with my Christmas gift cards, so let's jump right into it. First, we have Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, and this is a King Arthur retelling that focuses on Bree, whose mother just passed away, and she is starting this early college program on a campus. And her first night there, she witnesses this magical attack and sees the secret society on campus fight this creature. And so one of the members of that society come by to wipe her memory, but it ends up not working and actually unleashes a magical power that she didn't know that she had. And so then she decides to infiltrate this secret society, and through all of that, she learns that there's more to her mother's death than what's in the police report. And I actually have read this book already in January, and I loved it so much. It was so good. There's so many raw emotions. I loved the magic, and it's definitely a very cool King Arthur retelling. I feel like I learned a good amount of stuff about King Arthur through this, so that was really cool. And I think there's actually going to be a sequel at some point soon, so I'm very excited for that, and I loved all of the characters in this. Next, we have The House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig, and this is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, and this focuses on 12 sisters who live in a manor by the sea, and 4 of them die, and Annalie, our main character, starts to get these visions, and she learns that their deaths were not an accident. So with the sisters sneaking out and going to balls and dancing, Annalie is not sure whether to join them or to try to stop them because she realizes that there is a darkness spreading over her family and she needs to try to stop it before she's next. This story sounds very interesting. I feel like I vaguely remember the 12 Dancing Princess story, but I don't remember enough of it to really be able to explain more to you guys. But this sounds very intriguing, the fact that 4 of the sisters have died and it's definitely not an accident, and she's getting like ghostly visions, and it says that she also meets this mysterious stranger who has a bunch of secrets. So it basically combines a whole bunch of elements in books that I love, and also this cover is absolutely gorgeous, so I'm very excited to see what this one's all about. Then we have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, and in this book, all sorcerers are evil, and Elizabeth has known that for as long as she can remember. And Elizabeth was raised as a foundling in one of the great libraries, surrounded by all these magical grimoires that always rattle beneath their chains because they can transform into these grotesque creatures. And suddenly there is an act of sabotage releasing the most dangerous grimoire, and Elizabeth is accused of treason. And so she has nobody else to turn to except for her sworn enemy, a sorcerer Nathaniel, and his servant. Elizabeth then finds herself entangled in this centuries-old conspiracy. And this one sounds really cool. I love that there are so many magical grimoires. I feel like that is such a cool concept, and the fact that she is forced to turn to her sworn enemy, I feel like is perfect for an enemies to lovers, especially because it seems like they truly hate each other and don't trust each other, and for some reason that's my favorite kind of romance, so I'm very excited to dive into this world and hopefully get a really great romance. Our next one is Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron, and this is a Cinderella retelling where Cinderella really did exist over 200 years ago, and now every year the girls are forced to attend a ball where the men in society choose them to marry, and if they're not chosen, they're never heard from again. And our main character, Sophia, wants absolutely nothing to do with this, so she flees the ball and ends up bumping into Constance in Cinderella's mausoleum, and together they decide to take down the king and this system in itself. And I just read this one recently and I really enjoyed it. It's such a cool new twist on such a classic story, and it's one of my favorite retellings that I have read. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts, go ahead and watch my February wrap-up. The next book I bought is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And on one hand, we have Prince Ren, who is cursed to repeat the autumn of his 18th year and has always had hope that it would be broken if a girl fell for him. But that was before he turned into a vicious beast and destroyed his castle, his family, and every last shred of hope. And then on the other hand, we have Harper, whose father is long gone, her mother is dying, and her brother constantly underestimates her because of her cerebral palsy. And one day, she saves a stranger on the streets of Washington, D.C., and is pulled into this magical world. And there, she doesn't really know what to believe or who to trust, but once she starts understanding what's at stake, Ren's hopes come back, but they don't realize that there is a lot standing in their way of breaking the curse, and it's going to take more than a broken curse to save Harper, Ren, and their people. The main reason I picked this one up is because I think the third book in the series came out recently, and so I had been seeing these books all over Bookstagram and TikTok and all of that stuff, and so when I saw this in the store, I felt like I should pick it up and give it a chance. And also, I love that it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. As you could probably tell from the books I've hauled so far, I really enjoy retellings, and this one sounds really cool because it's about a girl who lives in Washington, D.C. and gets pulled into a magical world, so I love that aspect of it, and I love that our main character has cerebral palsy because I feel like that's a really great representation, so I'm very excited to learn more about her as well. Up next, we have The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller, and this follows Alessandra, who is tired of being overlooked and has a plan to gain power. She wants to woo the Shadow King, marry him, and then kill him to take his kingdom for herself. But she finds herself trying to keep him alive as all of these other people try to assassinate him as well, because she wants to keep him alive long enough to become his queen and steal his kingdom, but along the way she finds herself struggling to not lose her heart to him as well. I feel like I'm really going to love this one. I love the types of romances where it's like somebody is determined to kill a person, but along the way ends up falling for them. I feel like that's the ultimate enemies to lovers, and I'm totally here for it. It sounds amazing, and I also love that there's an aspect of royalty, and I think even some kind of magic in here, so it combines all of my favorite elements and fantasies, and I am so excited to read this one. The last book in this section is Wings of Ebony by J.L., and Rue's mother was just murdered, and her estranged father comes to whisk her away to this secret country of gods. And she is actually half human and half god, which doesn't really exist in this secret country. And the leaders of this place thrive on human suffering and protect their magic and their powers above all else. And on the anniversary of her mother's death, Rue ends up running away from the country to go see her sister, which is breaking one of the biggest rules. And when she's there, she sees that black kids are being forced into a life of crime. And so Rue realizes that she needs to embrace her ancestry and her powers in order to save her sister and protect them from the gods before they burn down the city. This book was one of my anticipated releases that I was very excited for because it combines magic and sort of mythology with gods and humans and that whole dichotomy, but it also focuses on racial issues and things like that. And so I think it's very important commentary, and it's very prominent in things that are going on today. And so I think this will be a very great book to read, and I'm very excited to pick this one up. This whole next section is basically an Actar Binge because with the new book coming out in February, I heard about this series nonstop all year, and I saw it all over BookTube and BookTok and Bookstagram and basically anywhere you can think of. And so I finally gave in and decided to just get the whole series, everything that was out at that point. So here we have A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wrath and Ruin, and A Court of Frost and Starlight. And I don't have the newest book yet because I think it only came out in hardcover and all of these are paperback, so I want to make sure I get an edition that matches. And also, I've only read the first 2 books so far, so I have time to read these other ones before getting the new book. But I have a full review of this one on my channel, which I will try to link below if you want to see that. And then I've also read this one already, so I talked about that in my February wrap-up as well. This series starts off as another Beauty and the Beast retelling, but I don't really think that carries through the other books, at least as far as I can tell. But A Court of Thorns and Roses has Feyre as the main character, and she is forced to hunt in order to keep her family alive. And one day she goes out into the woods and tries to kill a deer, but also has to kill a wolf. And then all of a sudden, this mysterious creature shows up at her door demanding retribution for this wolf that she killed, and she gets taken away to this magical land where there are immortal fairies, and she finds out that her captor is one of them. And as she starts to get used to this world and starts to care for these people, she realizes that there is this darkness and shadow spreading through the kingdom, and she needs to figure out how to stop it in order to save the people that she cares about and the world itself. And I was very worried to start this series because even though I heard so much about it, I feel like when a book is that hyped up, I get really nervous to start it in case I don't enjoy it. But this series so far has definitely lived up to the hype. I really enjoyed both of the books that I've read so far, and I really loved this one. It's definitely not as good as book 2. Book 2 is definitely my favorite by far. It's one of my favorite books I've probably ever read, and I love the characters. I love the romance. I could probably talk about this series for a while, so like I said, go ahead and check out those videos I mentioned earlier if you'd like to hear more of my thoughts. The other book that I picked up along with Actar is Cersei by Madeline Miller, and all I know about this is that it is a retelling of the story of Cersei, obviously, and I remember hearing about Cersei when I had to read the Odyssey in my mythology class in college, and I thought she was a very interesting character. She was one of my favorite people that I read about in that story, and so I'm very excited to see what other things she did through her life, and I really love mythology, so I am very excited to find something else that involves mythology. This next section are all of the books that I got in the bargain section of Books A Million the last time I was there, and the first ones are To All the Boys I've Loved Before and P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han. And I decided to finally pick these up because I think the third book was just turned into a movie on Netflix, and so I really need to try to read this series before I get to watch all of those movies. But it sounds really adorable. I just haven't had the chance to pick it up, so that's really the only reason I haven't read it so far, because I know so many people love this series. All I know is the main character wrote love letters to all of the people that she's loved, and she kept them in a box, I think, in her room, and she never wanted anybody to read them. She just wanted to get out her feelings. But one day they're all mailed accidentally to all of these guys, and so her love life gets shaken up for sure. And that sounds amazing. It also sounds really awkward, and I get a lot of secondhand embarrassment, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm very excited to pick these up. They seem really cute, and they're just adorable. So hopefully I love them as much as everybody else. I have been wanting to get my hands on this next book for a very long time, so I was so excited when I saw it in the bargain section, and that is Of Curses and Kisses by Sandia Manon. And this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so as you could tell, there's a theme through all these books, which wasn't even on purpose, but in this one, there is a centuries-old feud between two families, and our main character, Princess Jaya, is really upset when the Emerson clan messes with her little sister. And so when she learns that one of the sons of the Emerson clan go to the same boarding school as her, she makes it her mission to make him fall in love with her and then break his heart. But through all of this, she ends up getting drawn in by him, and it makes her question her motives and whether or not she thinks she can spend her life with one of her sworn enemies. And like I said, this is something I've been wanting to pick up for a while. It was one of the first books I heard about on BookTube, so I'm so excited that I finally have my hands on it, and I can't wait to read it. Up next, we have The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White, and I honestly don't know a lot about this book. It's a Frankenstein retelling, and I remember seeing it in a ton of spooky fall recommendations videos, which is the main reason I picked it up. Plus, there's a bunch of blurbs on the cover from a lot of authors that I really enjoy and trust, so I'm really excited to read this one for Holo Reads this year, and we'll see how I feel about it. Hopefully I enjoy it. It seems pretty dark and disturbing, so we'll see. The very last book in this book haul is American Royals by Katharine McGee, and this takes place in a world where after America won the Revolutionary War, instead of George Washington becoming president, he was offered a crown. And so this is modern day and follows the perspective of 3 to 4 different people, and you basically get to see what the American royals are like, which is really cool. I have been reading a lot of royalty books recently. I read Prince Charming sometime last year, and then I just listened to the audiobook of Her Royal Highness. And the last book I read was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So I've really been loving books about royalty, and I'm really hoping that this book has a very similar vibe. Hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing about all of the books that I've bought so far this year. Let me know if you've read any of these because I'd love to hear your thoughts. And also like this video and please subscribe and click the notification bell because I would really, really appreciate it. But thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait to see you in my next video.